This has been one of the craziest projects I've ever done. Between the size of it, the circumstances around it, it's amazing that it's finally complete. Let me tell you the story. So this project starts with the vision that the customer sent. They've got this big wall going up the stairs, and they wanted kind of what they described as a mid-century modern type of design to cover that entire wall. So they sent me some pictures. Here's one of them right here. It's a pretty cool design. It's definitely different than what I'm traditionally doing. You know, I get requests for a lot of shiplap or stone, things like that. No problem. I like doing it. I've done it so many times that it's kind of easy money for me, right? So they send me that design. I go, we meet, talk about it, take some measurements. This wall is 18 feet tall and about 20 feet wide, going upstairs. So I know initially that's going to be interesting trying to get everything installed. So I get the measurements. I take some pictures of the different spots that I know are going to be some interesting areas. Going up the stairs, I need to find those angles, where the landing is, how everything's going to kind of shake out when it comes to install time. I also have to map this whole thing out, right? So with the design that I've got, I know that I'm going to need to put basically 3 foot by 4 foot rectangles. If I make them that size, now it ended up being slightly less than 4 and slightly more than 3 based on the final measurements. But essentially we're going 6 rectangles high and 5 left to right. So that is roughly 30 rectangles. You take out the accounting of the stairs because it's not a perfectly rectangle wall because the stairs are going up it. We ended up with 25 rectangles. Now I'm making these out of 3/4 MDF because as you saw with the design, it's going to require the CNC to do the cutting out. And we want that paint finish to look good. So you don't want to use plywood. It would cost way too much to use actual wood on this project. So MDF it is. We're going to get those things cut out. So we get everything together. We've got our plan. I've mapped out a design, showed them, via CNC, the software that I used. We got that all mapped out. They approved it. They say, let's get moving. We get the deposit and it's ready to start the project. That week, we were preparing for Hurricane Milton. Now, I live in Central Florida, born and raised here. My parents were born and raised in Florida. Even on my dad's side, his mom was born and raised the same town that I grew up in. So we are Floridians through and through. Been here since before air conditioning. Gonna be here, till I die. I say that to let you know I've been through plenty of storms. Hurricanes, cats 1 through 5. I've seen it all. My mom's family were in Homestead during Hurricane Andrew. I know all about it, right? They took a direct hit back then. When I was in high school, we had 4 hurricanes hit the state of Florida. 3 of them came right over my town. I know what it's like to go through storms. This one was going to be a little bit different because it was coming west to east and it's coming straight across the state. That doesn't normally happen. And it was projected to come in right at Tampa and come up and hit us right here in Central Florida. Now we're inland, so I'm probably never going to evacuate based on where we're at. This would be that worst case scenario where I was like, maybe I may throw some boards on the windows type of thing because it had the potential to be real nasty. Now, luckily, it weakened before it hit land. The West Coast still got terrible damage, right? My brother lives in Tampa, so his house was affected. The reason I'm mentioning this as far as the project goes is this project was a CNC based project. Everything had to be cut out on the CNC. Hurricane comes through, we lose power. CNCs run on power, so without the power, I couldn't do that. And then because my brother's house was affected, he was out of town at the time. He calls me up, asks me if I can go over to Tampa and just check it out, make sure everything's okay. And I get over there and they got water. Storm brought water in the house, um, lots of damage. So I'm spent a day over there cleaning everything up, uh, which let me just say that I'm not a big fan of the insurance companies these days. They're not going to be getting a Christmas card from my family because, yeah, that's a whole nother video, probably a whole nother subject. Let me just say that insurance companies can, yeah. So that's a whole nother day. Going over there, taking care of that. You got to help friends and family out. Luckily, we didn't have any damage at our house. No big deal. But went over there, helped them out. So that slows down progress on this project because I don't have power, and then I got to help out family. You know, everybody, customers are great, super understanding about this. So we deal with the storm. I get back to work, machine's going. When I'm cutting this out, when I initially set this project up, put it in the software, I had a certain type of bit set up on the CNC, thinking, hey, it's NBF, should be able to cut right through it. Well, it didn't. Because I had to change the bits, the cut time for each unit was supposed to be down to about an hour. When I changed the bits, it went up to 2.5 hours. So 2.5 hours times 25 units that need to be cut out. That's a lot of hours, on top of the fact that it can only be done while I'm at the shop. I have other projects that I'm working on at this time because I know that it's going to be a process on the CNC. I don't want to be sitting around doing nothing. I want to keep other projects moving so I can keep making money. So I started a fireplace project. Small project, a couple of cabinets, you know, the smooth looking fireplace. I'll show you a picture right there. There it is. Turned out great. I love it. Customer loved it. But that's also days that I had to install it. When I'm installing, it's hard to, I can't run the machine, right? So I do that. I keep cutting these things out. I finally get to a point where I have all of them cut out. Lay them out on the shop. I've got to move my workbench out of the way. I've got to clean the shop basically just so I can get everything laid out. I mean, this thing's big. 18 by 20 is a large space. So I get all that laid out. I take a couple of pieces of scrap wood to act as what I think will be the staircase so I can get a little bit better of an idea of how big those partial pieces are going to be. Essentially, I want to know, can I make 2 pieces out of 1 piece? So I can just cut that up. So I get those numbers, I get it all done. Then we get to the easy part, right? The finishing. It's supposed to be easy. Sanding in those tight little spots is not easy. I've got an orbital sander, I've got a detail sander. The detail sander I like, it works great in corners. It does not get into these tight little spots. As you can see from these pictures, it gets real thin. It basically is about a 1/4 of an inch bit that was running through there, and that's the extent of the thickness. And that stuff needs to get sanded so that you don't have those machine marks, right? So if you've got a recommendation for a detailed sander that can get in real tight spaces like that, leave it down in the comments because I could use it. So you get it sanded, you get it painted, prime it, paint it with the top coat, sand it again, and then obviously top coat again. Now we get to the real interesting part. How am I going to get these 3 by 4 pieces 18 feet in the air on a staircase, right? So you can't just go with the normal ladder. You gotta kind of work your way up there. So day 1 out there, I get the base all leveled out. Go all the way from the first landing up to the top of the stairs at that landing. Get those pieces cut, all the angled pieces. That one wasn't too bad, right? Because you're working on your feet and not up in the air. So I get all that done. I'm adjoining these with biscuits. The reason I'm using biscuits is because I want everything to be lined up on the face. So I get the biscuits cut in on the sides, and then that way when they slide in place, everything's nice and flush. Saves you a lot of time in the end. Because if you're dealing with trying to level everything out afterwards, it's a disaster. I've tried it before. Don't do that. Use the biscuits, right? So we get the alignment done. I get it up to basically where I can't reach anymore with just a ladder. Next day I come out, I bring my scaffolding. Now I've only got 6 foot scaffolding. Scaffolding goes 6 foot. I'm just under 6 feet myself. With my hands up in the air, at best I can reach 14 feet. Well, I got to get to 18 feet. And I got to lift a 3 foot by 4 foot piece of the 3/4 MDF up to that 18 feet. So I throw a ladder on top of my scaffolding. Now that's probably not OSHA approved as far as getting things up high. But I gotta do what I gotta do, right? I gotta get that piece up there. So put the ladder up there. I do take the time to strap that ladder down, make sure that it's not gonna tip over on me. And then I climb up and get into that top right corner. You'll see in the video, I mean, it's way up there, right? So I finally get that thing in, throw a few screws in it. I'm using trim head screws, making sure I hit them right into the furring strips because it is an exterior wall, which means it's cinder block with furring strips in between the drywall and the cinder block. So I make sure everything is connected to those furring strips so that we're nice and solid in there. We get that all up, sand things smooth, put a little bit more touch-up paint where it needs to be after I filled all the holes. This thing turned out pretty nice, you know. It's definitely a different look from what I traditionally do, but I think it looks good, you know. So let me know in the comments, would you want that in your house? Would you, how would you put that up there if you wouldn't do it the same way that I did it, right? If you're interested in any of the tools that I use, I've got links to those down in the description below. You can buy those on Amazon with those links and it helps me out. If you need to learn anything else about Crafted in Florida, you can go to craftedinflorida.com. There'll be a link to that in the description as well. I appreciate you watching. If you hit that subscribe button, maybe share this. Catch you next week.